All right. Well, we're back. So, if this is your first time joining us, thank you. If you've been to our meetings before, we miss you seeing you in person. But as things are going, you know, this is one of the things that we've decided, at least for the rest of the year, we're going to try this virtually. We're going to try to have a lot of fun today. We know that, you know, with the user groups going all virtual, you probably have at least a dozen choices today. So thank you all for taking time out of your day, joining us. We like to have fun. We like to be engaging. So if you can't hear, you know, Tammy, you know, you may want to try a different audio source. So I'm going to be managing kind of the Q&A and the chat and things like that. So give me one moment. We'll kind of move ahead. All right. So a little bit of housekeeping. Yes, you are all muted. We cannot hear you. Hopefully you can hear us. If you can't hear us, we do have other options. There should be some dial-in options. That might be an option for you. If you do have questions, please use the Q&A window feature at the bottom. If you want to provide any kind of comments, feedback, great praise, whatever it might be, go ahead and use the chat. Chat amongst yourself as well. This session will be recorded. It will be made available online on the Tableau's YouTube channel. And we'll also share that out. Hopefully we'll have that by tomorrow, possibly even later today. The deck will also be shared. Any content that we do, you'll have access to that. All right, so today's agenda, we'll go through some introductions. If this is your first time here, we want to let you know who we are, why we do what we do. We'll go through some announcements. And there's a lot of announcements. If you've been following along with what's going on with Tableau, there's too much to actually pack into today. We'll actually cover a lot of some of those announcements next month, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We've got a great presentation today. We're going to be seeing how Catherine Bourne, how she deals with sparse data. And I'm not going to take any away from her thunder, but really cool stuff. If any of you are working with Tableau Prep Builder, this is a presentation for you. If you haven't heard of Tableau Prep before, this is a presentation for you. Tableau's got a lot of products out there. It's just not all about the visualization stuff. And over the course of more meetings, we're actually going to dive into a lot of what Tableau has to offer. We want to make sure that you're well-rounded, you understand about the different technologies that Tableau has to offer, and what you can do to kind of take advantage of that. The last presentation, I'll go ahead and I'll kind of communicate to you, talking about building a new community. We're going to kind of tease up what Tableau's been working on, what we've been working on at the Phoenix Tableau user group, and how we can engage with you more, and how you can engage with us and the rest of the community much more. And this isn't bound to just the Phoenix users. So if we do have people joining us from different states, different countries, again, welcome. We want to make this a really great, engaging community. So this is us. Again, if this is your first time here, we are a leadership council comprised of 6 very talented Tableau specialists. Each one of us has, I'd say, a unique set of skills, different strengths, and so forth. I'm kind of running solo today, but in future meetings, you will be hearing from them, you will be seeing them, and hopefully you'll be engaging with them, again, one-on-one within the community that we're really trying to drive home. So we've got Ann Jackson, Josh Jackson, Justin, Jeff, Suraj, and myself. A little bit about me. I've been using Tableau since 2011. Certified in desktop and server. Been doing a lot of stuff with integrations and APIs, doing best practices, how to get started. One of the things that we've done when we met in person, we would hold monthly workshops. And that's obviously a challenge for us right now. As we go through the presentation, we're going to start to solicit your feedback. In this virtual medium that we're using, sometimes workshops or teaching Tableau or engaging with the users and hands-on activities can be challenging. And we're trying to find unique ways to actually tackle that and still make it enriching content and something meaningful that you can actually take back with you. So if you have any questions, this is us. Please follow us on social media, Twitter, reach out to us at the community if you have any questions, if you just need help, whatever you might need, we're happy to engage with you. So we're going to get started with announcements. Hopefully we can get through those quick, and then we'll get started with our presentation. So the announcements we'll talk about in a moment. We'll talk about the Tableau conference. We'll talk about how you can engage in even more online Tableau events. A new feature that Tableau, or activity if you will, that Tableau's put out, Data Kids. We'll talk about Tableau eLearning and certification, one of those things that I really try to hit home with everyone. The Tableau Talent Finder. So we'll talk about that if you've been displaced because of COVID. You're looking for work or you're looking for talent, we're going to talk about that, how you can get engaged. And then going forward, what does it look like for engaging with the Tableau user group throughout 2020? All right. So if you did not already know, the Tableau conference that was scheduled for later this year to meet in Vegas has been canceled. So Tableau is working with Salesforce leadership to find a really cool and unique way to bring us such kind of events, engagement virtually. So in the link on the slide deck, I've got a post about the blog, about some content and information about what Tableau's communicating, how to stay in touch through that. So again, Tableau conference this year has been canceled, but they'll be looking at ways to bring you some exciting content virtually this year. If you're looking at some Tableau events, again, there's no shortage of online events with Tableau these days. Do visit the events page on the Tableau community. This morning we had a great presentation from the Data Fam Community Jam, which if you've watched previously or participated in Tableau Fringe Festival, this is kind of an offshoot of that to help engage the Tableau community through these weekly sessions, showcasing some great content from the Tableau community itself all over the globe. So do participate in that, check out the events page, sign up for the Community Jam. I'm sure they'll have much more going forward. If you did miss any of that content, all of that stuff has been posted online, so you can rewatch them. Hours and hours of content. Coming up, Tableau will be hosting a virtual IT summit. And this is going to really kind of talk to how to drive change with data, specifically around Tableau, and now, with the Salesforce partnership, some of those platforms. So take a look at the virtual IT summit, register for that. Should be some really great content coming forward. again, like I mentioned before, Tableau's got a lot of products, you know, that are out there. You know, most of what we spend time on is Tableau Desktop, you know, talking through the virtual, or in this case, you know, the visualizations, the best practice, hands-on activities. But there's a whole lot more to Tableau. And if you really want to learn more about those product offerings, do sign up for how Tableau is actually using the products, and get a feel for kind of what's out there. Again, as we kind of go through and solicit your feedback, we want to know what you're interested in. What are you using today? What are you maybe curious about? And we could bring some of that content and information back to you. All right, so as I mentioned, Tableau's kind of created this Data Kids, if you will. And Data Kids was kind of spun up, you know, through this effort of, you know, COVID and kids being at home, and, you know, how do we get them engaged? How do we maybe teach them a little bit about data visualization? So the link here will take you to the blog and the information about what Data Kids is. It's really geared towards, you know, I guess say adolescents, kids from age 5 to, you know, 13 or so, really teaching them about how to collect data, how to analyze it, and how to visualize it, you know, with Tableau. Tableau Public, if you're not aware, is a free platform that you can go out and download on your Windows or Mac device, and start to get started right away. If you're brand new to Tableau and you want a fun way to actually learn what Tableau is and how to use that, take a look at Data Kids. Yeah, it's really geared towards, like I said, the adolescents and, you know, fun activities. But I like having fun. I like, you know, cool activities. I like things that are, you know, going to showcase what I'm interested in and really teach me about data along the way. So whether you've got kids or you know kids and they're at home, they're looking for something to do, get them involved in the Data Kids program, and share that on social media. We'd like to see kind of what you're doing and how you're engaging throughout. All right. So Tableau is doing this 90 days of free e-learning. Now, what the free e-learning program is, it's a brand new, give or so about a year now, platform that they've built up that will take you through 13 different learning paths. And these learning paths could be, as you see on the screen, really tailored to a consumer, a designer, a site admin, maybe an executive sponsor. And these learning paths are going to teach you really soup to nuts about Tableau. Included in here is Tableau's training on, you know, the Tableau fundamentals 1, 2, Tableau prep, and things like that. This is free for you to use. If you're not already on this and leverage it, do that. This is really going to help if you're wanting to expand your skill set in Tableau, if you're looking at maybe certifying down the road. If you're just starting, this is where you kind of need to be. Best of all, as you go through some of these lessons and kind of pass through some of these quizzes, you'll start to earn these badges, collect them. Like I said, there's 13 in all. See if you can do that. You know, spend a couple months, see if you can grab all those badges, collect them, and then you know, showcase some of this new knowledge within your organization. If you're freelancing, looking for work, this is a great opportunity to really learn more about Tableau and its product. All right. Tableau certification. You know, if you've been with us, you know, this whole time, you know that we're really big on certification, and we want each and every one of you at least to become desktop specialist certified. Along with the Tableau e-learning, that's going to really prep you for all this certification that Tableau has to offer. Now until June 30th, Tableau is offering 50% off their Tableau Desktop Specialist exam. So normally this is $100, 50% off, this will be $50. You don't have to take this exam right away. Do sign up, secure your spot with that, and you'll have 6 months to actually go in and register for that exam. These exams, at least the first couple, are online, proctored, so you can be pretty much anywhere you want, take the exam, their certification guides, all that great stuff. So don't miss out on this opportunity. If you're in a team environment, share this with your team, get that discount, start looking to get certified, and we've got some information to kind of help along with that in just a moment. So I mentioned earlier, if you've been displaced or you know of someone that's been displaced or impacted due to the COVID-19, if you're looking for work, if you're an employer or an agency and you're looking to hire talent, the Tableau community has really stepped up. So the Tableau Talent Finder is a Tableau public dashboard that's out there that you can leverage to fill out some forms, put some information in about who you are, about your background, about your profile with Tableau Public. And this will give people a chance to connect one another, and again, employers to be able to find you and look at some of the work that you've done. And hopefully we can start to really build more awareness of this, get you maybe back into the employment game. So do take a look at that Tableau Talent Finder. If you do use any of the bit.ly links, know that they are case sensitive. If you can't access this right now, again, you'll have access to these slide decks. The direct links are also in there. Also, feel free to use Google if you want to check out Tableau Talent Finder now. All right, and last, upcoming virtual meetings. So as I mentioned, we want to make sure that we're all safe, that we can still communicate with one another and have engaging discussions. So we've made the decision to, at least for the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to be meeting virtually. This is our proposed plan. So usually our scheduled meetings is the third Thursday of every month. This deviates a little bit from that. Next month, we're going to be doing all Arizona Tableau user group. So we'll be meeting with Tucson, we'll be meeting with Flagstaff, and of course, Phoenix. So do stay tuned for information on that. Hopefully we'll have that posted next week. We're going to have some really great content. Again, finding ways to get you engaged. We're the user group that is hands-on, and we want you to be hands-on with Tableau going forward in these meetings. So take note of that. On our user group page, we will have all these meetings posted at least a month in advance, so you'll have ample time to sign up and promote that within your team's organization, colleagues as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop talking. You've heard enough from me for now. I'm going to turn this over to Catherine Bourne. Catherine's a software analyst with Kimley Horn. She's going to be talking about dealing with sparse data. And in this, we're going to hear a little bit about her use case, what she's dealt with in a particular project with some challenging data, and how she was able to leverage Tableau Prep Builder to help shape that data in a much more friendly way, help visualize that within Tableau. So, are you with us, Catherine?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go ahead and take it away.
Okay. All right, you should be seeing my screen now. So in today's presentation, I just wanted to go over my background, the project background, what I learned about sparse data, and then 2 problems I encountered with my sparse data. First, just showing that 0 data, and then actually getting it to be useful in analytics. So I'm going to go through some of that, and then we'll end this like with a hands-on demo of it in Tableau. So for my background, I currently work at Kimley Horn, which is a civil engineering consulting firm, and I'm in a software group within there. It's been pretty cool. For my education, I got my undergrad at the University of Illinois, and then a master's in transportation engineering at the University of Texas at Austin. And while I've been at Kimley Horn, I've gotten to work on a lot of really cool projects all over the country. They do tend to be really driven by what the client wants, and so sometimes it can change back and forth. But this is a photo from one of my favorite ones. We are helping around Las Vegas. They have I-15 and US 95 and things going through there, and there's just been a lot of really bad accidents there. So they're actually using data from speed detectors on the roadways to drive decisions about what speed limits to post using their new system of variable speed limits. And this is a project I started working on over 4 years ago, and it's finally coming to fruition. And you can see that they've got variable speed limits going on. The HOV lane on the left for high occupancy vehicles has better traffic flow, so they're able to go at a higher speed there. So that's what's going on there. So for this particular project that I ended up using Tableau, it was my first project with Tableau ever. So that was quite a learning experience, but the general goal was to allow California counties to look at the historical trends and use that to set goals for their transportation safety based on their local data. And this was done with two main data sources. The United States has a fatality analysis reporting system, which is for the entire United States. And so that can be called SPARSE. And so that's any vehicle collision that has a fatality gets reported in this system. And California, in their Department of Transportation, Caltrans, has a statewide integrated traffic record system called SWITRS that has any vehicle collision of any severity that was reported to police. So all police records covering any collisions. And transportation engineers generally classify vehicle collisions into a couple different severities, and the entire collision is based on the most severe injury. So if there's a fatality, obviously that's fatal injury. If no one was killed, but someone had a severe injury, you know, it kind of goes on like that, with the least damaging one just being property damage with no visible or complaints of injuries. And this project really focused on the fatal injuries and severe injuries. So that's what we were going for. The data itself had some challenges. We had 10 years of crash data to go through, and over a 10-year period, they had obviously evolved their system of how they track crashes and what they care about. So like they started paying attention to whether cell phones were in the vehicles. They also changed how they were calling the different severities of crashes. So over time that changed. The different years had different values for that. In general, the data was stored in a couple different tables, one table for each collision, and then there was a table with each party, so each car or truck that was involved, or bicycle, or things of that sort. And then there was also a table of the victims, so all the people who were involved and were injured. So to get the full picture of the data, you have to link across those tables to see that. One of the things I found was that I was actually dealing with sparse data. So with typical data sets, it might be sales records or weather or participation in Tableau's Workout Wednesdays. It's a very clear data set. Every record you have is a positive indication. It's the typical data that we think of. Sparse data sets, on the other hand, are rare things. So patient falls in hospitals, vehicle collisions, or extreme weather events like hurricanes or tornadoes. Another way to think of it is like with these visualizations. With sparse data sets, it's actually a good thing to not have data. You know you have the complete data set, and lack of data is valid data and often a good thing, right? you don't want people falling in hospitals. So that led to some trouble when I was working in Tableau. This was my very first Tableau project, so I started with a very simple text table to just try to look at things. I was getting unexpected blanks, and so you can see here, just kind of high level, I was looking at some various statistics for it, and I've got different years going along the side here, as well as different levels of severity and different counties in California. So a particular county might not have any crashes of a severity in a given year, and those were showing up as blanks, which I wasn't expecting. Another thing I ran into was when I was looking at graphs, a line graph connected the years that had data, whereas a bar graph clearly indicated there wasn't any data in this year. And so you got a very different picture of the collisions in a particular area. And when you were looking at this at a statewide level, because California is so big, it kind of was invisible, right? The entire state obviously had crashes of all the severities every single year. But when you dug down into counties, some of the smaller or rural counties started having these good things of not having fatal collisions in a year. And so that was really important. We want to show that and we want to reflect that. So what I ended up learning about that was that Tableau doesn't recognize the lack of data naturally as data. So a lookup formula actually lets you say, show me the data that's exactly here. And you can do that with a lookup of 0 offset. And then since it's trying to look it up, it can recognize that there's no data coming back, and that can be transformed using the function zn, which if it's a null value, it returns a 0. Otherwise, it returns whatever number it is. And then for the graphs, there ends up being a feature to show missing values. And so that was able to solve the problems of showing that data. The next thing I encountered was they wanted to look at trend lines of their data, not just the number of crashes, but what the trend was, and so what they could kind of expect for their collisions in the future. There was a lot of back and forth about how many years of data to include in the trend line. Is 10 years correct? Is it 5 years? Is it 3 years? And they kept going back and forth on what they wanted. So I ended up setting up a parameter because I could read up about that, and it sounded like a very appropriate thing. Let the client keep changing their mind. We can set up a trend line for that. And that led to a revelation about how that was going. And so now I'll just switch over to Tableau to show you guys this and the different solutions. So here we have, going back to the showing 0 data, this is one of the simple text tables I was looking at, and you can see it's got those blanks. And so what I ended up finding is that the measure values that you have, in this case, the sum of the people in any particular severity, you can edit that formula. And if you put so you wrap it in a lookup, which is a handy formula, and you tell it to look up with a 0 offset, but then you also apply zn, which is that function that will return a 0. And so then you can see it shows up with a bunch of zeros there, which is more what I had been hoping for. And then here we have the line graph, and this formula that I'm looking at, it already has those 2 things I learned about previously, the zn and the lookup. So it should be returning a 0 there. I would expect it to have a 0. If we look at this matching bar graph, we can see there's no data there. What you end up having to do is click on the columns, which in this case represents years, and there's this show missing values option. And that bends the graph down how I expect to see it. So that was the solution there. And here we're looking at the trend line, and I've already set it up to look at Mono County, which I happen to know was one of these counties that had that problem. Again, the metric value that I'm looking at already has the features to turn the nulls into zeros, because that's just how it progressed sequentially in my experience. I learned that trick. And you can see in 2009, it's showing they had 0 fatal crashes, which is fantastic. We love that. That's great. And as you move the trend line, you can see it changes. This is currently filtering all the data. I ended up layering this with another set of data that wasn't filtered, so you could see, so the trend line would be based on the selected years, but you could always see all the different years of data. But shifting it around changes the trend line. But what I found really interesting was looking at 7, 8, and 9 years of history, because 8 years of history was where they had the 0 crashes, the 0 fatal crashes. And so, 7 years of crashes looks plausible. 9 years of crashes looks plausible. 8 years, on the other hand, that 0 data is no longer shown, and it's actually the same trend line as with 7 years of data. And that was how I realized I had a problem. I did a lot of research online to try to figure out how to solve this problem. I encountered descriptions of data densification. I didn't end up following that approach exactly. It seemed to involve creating tables in Excel and doing cross joins. I'd heard some about Tableau Prep, and that's why I ended up using that. It seemed like a really great way to do this, and a repeatable way, because the client wanted to be able to update this tool with each new year of data they got. So I had learned that Tableau Prep, you could set up a set of steps to clean your data and then save that process and rerun it whenever you needed to. And that sounded like a great solution for being able to automate all the manual cleaning and consistently provide the same data set with same type of data set. So here I've opened Tableau Prep. I've already connected to my Microsoft Access database, and I pulled in 2 queries here. So this little database icon and that database icon. This is my victims table. And in this case, I'm looking at the statewide reporting data because that has data from all the crashes, including just property damage only. So I was running with the assumption that any county, no matter how great it was at transportation, would probably have at least one collision, even if it's only a fender bender, that gets reported to police. So I could summarize all the data, assuming that it had some crash of any kind per year, and then just give me the information that I care about for the fatal and severe injury crashes. So, and up here, I've got the collision and table information. Before I joined them, I had decided to do some cleaning steps. So to do that, you just click this plus sign. It gives you some options for what you can do. In this case, I inserted a step. And it gives you a really great snapshot of your data, all the different things you've got going on. It also tells you all the different changes you've made. At this point, I haven't made any. So one of the first things I ended up doing was looking at the degrees of injury. You can see that over time, over this 10 years of data, they changed from suspected serious injury versus injury severe, right? They had those 2 different descriptions. And in this case, I wanted to group those. So I was just going to select suspected serious injury and injury severe, group those values. And then the complaint of pain was also known as a possible injury, so I was going to group those values. Suspected minor injury and other visible were also equivalent names. So those get grouped as well. And then we've got it back down to the 5 types of crashes that we were expecting. And then you can click done. And now if you pop open the changes again, you can see it says what changes I've made. I did a group and replace on that field. one of the next things I did was set up a number of true and false statements based on this. So I created calculated fields. So just checking whether it was this value. So any crash whatsoever can answer that question, and it's either true or false. And it gives you a great little preview here and shows, yes, you got values that were true as well as false. You know, it's a great indicator you didn't mistype anything in your formula. Then going back, I also cared about the severe injuries. So set up a second one where we were just checking against that same type of description. And save that. And you can see again, there's some true ones coming back, so there weren't any mistypings in the formula, which is great. And then I think that was all the cleaning I did on them. So I was ready to join them. And you can do that, yeah, by clicking and dragging this or using the plus icon. And in this case, it gives you a great indicator. You can either union them, which adds more rows to your table, or join them, which adds more columns to your table. And you do that. It automatically suggests some join clauses. In this case, it recognized that the case ID was common between them. And so it suggested that. And if you look at this, it says, this Venn diagram shows the kind of join it's currently doing. And it shows you a summary of how many rows are in this table versus that table, and then the result. And any mismatched values, you can click this little checkbox so it will show you only the ones that are mismatched in case there's typos or something you need to correct. And so it's just a really great little summary there. And you know, as you click on the Venn diagram, you get different things, this updates. But this is pretty great because it shows that's what I want. All my victims are being brought in and they're matched with their collision data. So that is great. So then from the join results, I wanted to aggregate it just to summarize it for every county. And so adding the counties, actually, I think I have a better one. This is acronyms for the counties. There's a better descriptor, which is the full county name, which is a little easier to read. So we'll use that instead for grouping them. And they were also grouped on year. So accident year was another grouping filter. And then we had a, so this true false I can change to a whole number, and that turns them to zeros and ones. So I can add them up as a sum and I will get the total number of fatalities across all the crashes for that county and year. And I can do the same thing, changing the true false text into a whole number and adding it up over all my counties and years. And so I can get those degrees of injury there. And I can also get a sum of the non-motorist. That was another detail that they wanted to see. You know, how many people who were injured were, you know, pedestrians or bicyclists as opposed to being in the vehicles themselves. So that was kind of the aggregation I did. And then I added an output, and you can save this to a file. And so it's pretty straightforward. You get to pick the name and whatever. So just going here to my prep repository, giving it a name that's descriptive. This is just using the SWITRs, the statewide reporting information. And it's a mini data set just because it's only looking at SWITRs as opposed to including the FARs like I did in the real project. But so you set that up and you can then run flow either by clicking this green button or the play icon up here. And then it takes a little time to pull that up. And even as you're doing that, you can see here kind of what's going on with your data, that you've got the year, the county name, and then the number of the different crashes. So let's see. And what that ended up looking like was, if I can change over to my data sources, it might take a minute. It's kind of a large data set, unfortunately. But it really just helped avoid the problem of null values, because any county can be assumed to have that, you know, some crashes in a year at this point. Maybe in 10 years, hopefully that won't be true anymore. But for now, that was enough to get me the data I needed. I was really fortunate that the client ended up not needing a lot of the little details, but if you do need some of the tiny little details, there are ways to integrate that as well in your grouping and things. So that's kind of how I solved that. Let's see. Sorry about the delays. Yeah, it takes a while. So another thing that we encountered with this data set was that the database was packed as compactly as possible. So instead of writing out like fatal for every record, they had numbers for it instead, and they just understood that like a 1 meant, you know, possible injury or whatever. And then there's just a minor table that helped you translate between the numbers you were seeing and a text that made a lot more sense to you as a human. And so there ended up being a lot of different joins between the table to get the data to look like something that made sense to me. You know, there were dozens and dozens of different fields, like the weather and where it was, if it was near an intersection or an interstate ramp. And so just all sorts of data that there's too many numbers to keep track of in your head. So rejoining all those tables to get meaningful information out of it instead of just numbers took a lot of time. That ended up happening in an Access database because of this particular project. Other people were working in that Access database. But I think that is something that would be pretty straightforward to do with Tableau Prep as well. As you saw, it was pretty easy to do those joins. It's a very visually intuitive system, so it's really great that way. And so here, this is one of my basic data sets. I'm going to switch over to the sample result from my Tableau Prep. And so you can see here, I've got the county names, the accident year, the different degrees of injury, and let's see if we filter that, we can go down to one of the counties that we had problems with before, Mono County, and specifically in 2009, Mono County wasn't coming up with any fatal injuries because they didn't have any. But here you can see this table has a positive record for Mono County in 2009 that specifically says there were 0 fatalities, which is great. Tableau is great at handling this format of data. So this worked really well. So that was the Tableau demo. Are there any questions out there?
So Catherine, no questions have come through yet, but this was a really good use case of leveraging Tableau Prep. You mentioned before that, you know, this was your first time using Tableau Desktop, so I'm kind of impressed, you know, how quickly you, you know, were able to really see the capabilities of, or limitations, in fact, of, you know, where Tableau kind of starts and stops and where Tableau Prep kind of comes in. So what did you find, you know, because you went through that demo pretty flawlessly. What what were some of the things that you took away when you were learning Tableau Prep? Did you leverage the online learning, the community? How did you get to a point where, like I said, it was pretty flawless what you just did?
Well, I did practice for this presentation, but I found, so I didn't have access to the official e-learning at the time I was working on this project. But I found the Tableau Prep to be really, really intuitive. Everything was pretty well described, like just showing you, you know, it tells you all the different steps you can do. And you know, I've worked with databases before, so I'm familiar with a lot of these concepts to start with, you know, joins and unions and aggregations. So I did have that background to start from, but it was just, you know, the visualizations were really helpful. And I'm sure I was also reading bloggers who were talking about different things they'd done as well. I don't happen to remember any of them off the top of my head, but there were definitely websites I was using as references. And, you know, there were a lot of iterations as I learned, you know, I need to do something here and, you know, changing the order of this or whatever. And that was actually really helpful to come back and be able to see this in order. And you can edit any of them. You can delete them actually even. And you can delete this particular step without ruining those steps. I mean, there is obviously a ripple effect, right? If I hadn't grouped the different descriptions for severe injury, I wouldn't get quite the same results out of my exact text matching. But it's really kind of great for letting you visualize all the different things that are going on. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, the data profiling itself, you know, being able to see the data and what it's doing.
Yeah. Yep.
So we have a few questions. Jen was wondering if you can jump back into the deck and go back to the line graph where you were looking at the 7 to 9 year trend line and notice you had the issues.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe, Jen, I don't know if you were wanting her to kind of restate, you know, that issue, or if you're looking at anything in particular. Go ahead and, if you want to throw that in the chat or another Q&A. But if you maybe want to re-summarize that for everyone.
Yeah. So when you're looking at a trend line and you have, so this is a plausible trend line going on for 7 years of data, but with 8 years of data, 2009 should be included. And so I happen to know there's a 0 there. And since I would expect it to change the trend, right? Like if you're averaging a bunch of numbers and one of them is 0, it should impact the average, right? So I would expect a change, and I wasn't seeing any change, which was a problem, right? Like if we were to have zeros down here in the new data, that's great. We really want to have 0 fatal crashes. And we want the trend line to really reflect that we are succeeding in that way. And because I could see this was happening back here, it made me wary that it might be happening if we had zeros elsewhere in the data set as well. And so that was just kind of my clue that it wasn't working out how I was hoping, how I was expecting. So.
Well, this is great. All right, we've got some more questions. Rob, Jose, Rahul. Rob, we'll start with yours. So Rob's asking, you know, is Tableau Prep helpful for people who are already accomplished in R or Python, or is it more for people who don't really use those tools? And Rob, I'm assuming you're talking from the data collection and not necessarily the analytics side of data science. So is that something you can talk to, Catherine, or?
So I don't actually know a whole ton about R or Python myself. I did learn that, you know, showing the values for this trend line in Tableau, the best recommended way, if you didn't like the pop-up when you hover, was by doing some R integration. Aside from that, I don't really know what the capabilities of those tools are. So I guess if you already have that and you're familiar with doing that, Michael, do you know much about those tools?
Yeah, I think you could talk to it from two different spectrums. So Rob, for connecting to data and just doing simple aggregation, data wrangling, what Tableau Prep gives you, and Catherine did a great job, is showcasing that you could connect to virtually any data source. And Houston can start to connect those data elements together visually. It doesn't take someone that knows code. She was able to go in, do some data cleansing, some grouping, and there's a lot more that you can do. There's actually, if you want to look more at the data science things, you can integrate R and Python, within Tableau Prep to do, the deeper analysis. But strictly from a data wrangling side, this integrates well with Tableau, and I think it's great for people that, whether you know those tools or not, it can help you really see data in a very clear way, not necessarily through code and iterating through it in that manner. So hopefully that answered that. If not, we could definitely talk offline. Jose, so Catherine, when you created the correlation between the total accidents and the fatal accidents, he's asking, well, maybe that would change the trend line. Is there a way to run the prep job using a scheduler tool also? So two questions, I guess, there.
Yeah, that's a great question. So with this, let's see, I don't actually recall if there's a way to schedule that. My data set doesn't update very often, right? That's a once a year thing. So it's not something I personally had to consider all that much. I do wonder if you publish as a data source.
So I can talk to the automation scheduling piece, but if you want to talk to if you created a correlation between the total accidents and fatal accidents.
Okay. So yeah. Could you restate the exact question, Michael? I actually want to be sure I get the question right.
Sure. So a question from Jose, did you create a correlation between the total accidents and fatal accidents? Maybe that, and his comment, maybe that could change the trend line.
Yeah. So this, what we're looking at here, they actually wanted to know the number of fatalities. So it's actually measured in people rather than collisions. So I'm not sure correlating it to the number of total collisions would help. What I did in Tableau Prep did kind of, I think it kind of translates it more towards total collisions as opposed to fatalities, because it does bring in that extra data as a way to pad out the information for each county. But I don't know that they were looking for % of total crashes as fatal crashes. I'm not aware that that was a statistic they wanted to see, if that helps.
I think one of the things, when we create these insights for clients or even within our own teams, we have those questions. So Jose, I think that's kind of a curious metric that I probably would be also interested in, but as Catherine's kind of indicating, that's probably not something that the customer wants. We could definitely add in total number of crashes, look at the correlation, look at the percentage. it would most likely impact the trend line, but bottom line is, I think they're more concerned with, fatalities versus just overall crashes in area. That could be a totally separate use case or scenario. If you wanted to discuss that more, Jose, again, go ahead and post another question, or definitely connect you with Catherine offline. Rahul was asking, he's attending this for the first time, so he's new to Tableau. Is the data prep that you're doing in Tableau Prep Builder, is that changing any of the actual data or code? And then secondly, and this question's in regards to how you deployed a prod to make sure that they will run out any performance issues. So I failed to kind of talk about the scheduling piece. I'll talk about the kind of the performance and stuff at the end. But again, Rahul is asking, is anything in your data prep actually changing the underlying data or code?
Right. So it does change the data structure a bit. So currently, the original data source, everything was based on a person. So it was joined between the accident table, the person, and any vehicle details. So, you could find the exact age of any person who was a victim in the collision. But
just want to interject real quick before you go on. This is not actually changing any data in the Access database.
correct.
Everything that she's done here is now kind of virtualized in Tableau.
Yes, that is, yes. It creates a new output file with the differently structured data. The original data is unaffected. It's still available. I chose not to use it for all the same tables and things, so it created new data that, because I aggregated it, it lost some of the individual details, but it did allow me to work a lot better for the specific problems I was trying to solve.
Great. So I put in the chat for everyone, if you do have Tableau Prep Builder and you do have a Tableau server or Tableau online environment, you can schedule these workflows. It does require an extra cost, an add-on component to those environments. It's basically called Tableau Conductor, Tableau Prep Conductor. And it uses basically the Tableau engine, that you can schedule normal extracts from. But you can publish flows and you can set them up very similar to extracts to say, I want this to refresh on this schedule, this time, whatever it might be. If you do not have Tableau Conductor in your Tableau server or Tableau online environment, and you still want to somehow automate this, there is a method of you doing this manually through the command line interface. Is a little challenging if you're not apt to writing a little bit of code, but it is possible. So that would leverage like your task scheduler in Windows, things like that. To actually kick off, you need to make sure your computer's on. It would actually run the flow programmatically and execute. So two different ways. One that could do it automatically once Catherine was to publish to the server. If she had that feature, she could do that. Two, there's a manual approach, which is kind of a a pain in the what. So hopefully that answers that question. And Jose, again, there is no change to the actual underlying data. Everything that Catherine's doing in the Tableau prep and through Tableau is being modified only in that output file. I think you saved that as a hyper file. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it gives you the option. You could create a CSV file, but I went with a hyper file. It was the recommended type.
More performant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about performance and things like that. Outputting out to hyper, much more compressed than any of those other outputs. Once you publish that up to Tableau server, again, the performance is really going to be depending on what your backend Tableau server is capable of. It's going to go out, run the flows, call out to where your data is. Could be an Access database, cloud, SQL server, whatever it might be. At that point, it's very similar to doing this data in Tableau desktop. How performant is it? Really depends on how you create those joins, the different data cleansing tasks and processes and flows in here. Any other questions for Catherine? So Catherine, you got a slide that has all your contact info if anyone wants to get in touch with you?
Yes. That's my
All
basic
right.
contact info. The overall slide deck had my LinkedIn information as well. I am on the Tableau public as well, so you can actually get this sample workbook on there from my Tableau public site.
Great. All right. So Catherine, thank you so much. This was amazing. Again, if you are not currently using Tableau Prep and you're licensed for it, please go out, download it, license it, and start learning it. Again, very, very impressed, Catherine. That was really flawless. And that's the whole point, I think, of leveraging Tableau Prep is to see the data real time, being able to kind of quantify and profile the data. It's like, I didn't know I had nulls, or I've got some typos or things like that in there. I want to be able to group things. You don't have to wait till the data is in Tableau and drag and drop and see all those things. Now that you've used Tableau Prep, are you more apt to doing most of your data preparation with that, or is it kind of case by case where you'll still leverage data interpreter and things like that?
I really became a fan of the Tableau Prep Builder. That was just really straightforward to use, and I enjoyed that a lot. And especially that I can modify parts of it, right? Like if I have an Excel file and I change something, if I try to undo, I have to undo all my steps. With the Tableau Prep, I can remove this one step and the rest of it stays the same, which is great when the things aren't dependent on each other. So I really do enjoy Tableau Prep for that.
So one of the features that's currently in beta right now with Tableau Prep is the ability to do writebacks to databases. So for all of you people that are using traditional ETL tools, maybe SSIS or even Alteryx, which I'm a fan of, this will have the ability, hopefully in the next release or so, to actually write back to maybe your SQL Server, maybe your cloud database, and things like that. So if you're really trying to push the boundaries on, I need a little bit more scalable solution, that's coming. A lot of great stuff. So if you or anyone want to participate in that beta program, I'll put some notes into the chat window and I'll also put a resource in there. But it's a great way to kind of stay up to date on what's coming and the roadmap of Tableau products. So great. All right. You stopped sharing, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We are going to take a 10-minute break. So let's circle back at 11:20. When we get back, we're going to be hands-on to some degree with engagement. So come back energized. Got a little bit more to share with you. Hopefully a lot more fun too. So see you in about 10 minutes. All right, we're going to get started in about a minute. Hopefully you're all back. All right. Okay, if you're there, give me a hello. We're ready to go in the chat, and make sure I'm talking to someone. Thanks, Marie. Thanks, Claire. All right. Kara? Diana? All right. Okay, we're at 11:20 here in Phoenix, so let's get started. All right. So this is different. I'm talking to a camera and it's not talking back to me, unfortunately. And that's one of the downfalls of, doing these virtual meetings. In person, we're able to walk around the room, engage with all of you, see how you're doing, see if there's anything we can do to help, learn something new from each other. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, for the remainder of the time is how do we build this new community? We talk about hopefully getting back to normal and going back to doing things. I think personally, we're kind of beyond that. I think now there has to be a balance and a blend of doing things virtually as well as in person. I'm sure we have some people that are out of state, maybe even out of country, and we want to grow this Phoenix user group inclusively just outside of our boundaries. And Phoenix, if you don't already know, is a pretty big place. And we do understand that for you to actually attend in person every time we have a user group or a workshop or whatever, it's not always possible. Taking a couple hours out of your day to meet virtually, probably a little bit easier. And so we're going to try to figure out how we can kind of blend the two, but also put a lot of more emphasis on how to create engagement with you when we can actually see, touch, talk you in person. So what's Tableau doing about this? So I'm sure most of you know by now that Tableau has been acquired by Salesforce, and over the last, I'd say beginning of the year, really working hard to do a lot of integration with their platform. As such, a new community is coming. If you're already familiar with the Tableau community, the way it works today, the way it looks today, there's no secret. There's some challenges. There's some engagement gaps. And Tableau is really working with the Salesforce platform to create a much more engaging, user-friendly community. So a sneak peek. This new community will be coming in 2020. There's not a whole lot that we can share right now, but a lot of the challenges that we have with our current platform, we're pretty confident that you're going to be excited, you're going to be more engaged, and we really can't wait to share that with you once we're able to do that. But I wanted you kind of be the first to know that something really cool is coming. Get excited about this. One of the other things that we've talked about for quite a while is how do we engage with you as a community. Tableau has its community forums and things that are out there, and potentially things could get lost. And we want a little bit more intimate way to connect with you, to kind of put in a box, if you will, certain kinds of conversations or topics. So we've opened up our Slack channel to the group, to the world. If you're not already familiar with Slack, once you get the slide deck, you can click on the link. And what is Slack? Well, it's a collaboration tool. If you're familiar with maybe Microsoft Teams or Jabber or even Facebook Messenger to some degree, where you can chat privately in groups, have conversations, upload files, share videos that are G-rated. Those are all things that we're excited to be able to really share with you. The way to get onto the Slack platform, pretty simple. We've got a URL that we've customized that you're able to sign up with. Again, remember, bit.lys are all case sensitive, so that's an all lowercase link. You go to that link and you'll be presented with what you see in the middle there, a website that says, start with your email address. I'd recommend maybe using something other than your work email address, unless you plan on staying at that institution long-term. Although you have full control over this, you can change it at any time, update it once you're in Slack. It's your call. Once you get in there, we've got some channels set up. Think of channels as little rooms, private areas where you can communicate with one another or with us directly, and we'll communicate back to you. Some of the channels that we've established there on certification, most of these hopefully are pretty straightforward. This is where we're going to have conversations, topics, maybe some activities on how to get certified. We talked earlier about the different levels of Tableau Desktop, Tableau Server. You want to get certified, this is where we're going to have those conversations. If you're someone that's really interested in data dev, so the different APIs that Tableau has that are out there, and you want to do integrations, portals, whatever it might be, we're going to have conversations in there about that in data dev, and so on and so forth. So getting started, jobs, meetings. So we'll recap our meetings. We'll provide links to the videos in that channel, if you will. So this is a place where you don't have to necessarily be present to always be engaged. And hopefully this is one way that we can stay connected even when we meet in person. They do have mobile apps. So if you want to download that for your iOS or Android device, do that. You can talk with us, chat with us, connect with us, whether you're on the go, at work, in a restaurant, movie theater, doesn't matter where you're at, you'll have instant contact to this community. So we're excited to be able to bring that to you. As an example, this is what Slack would look like when you enter kind of in this jobs channel. And already there's a first post where I talk about, again, that Tableau Talent Finder. Again, if you've been impacted by COVID and looking for work, or you're an organization that's looking for talent, please do take a look at that. We're really excited about sharing that feature that the community has kind of built up. So thanks to Mark Conley, who built that. And we want to be engaging. So this is the kind of the time of the meeting where we want to hear from you. We're going to have some little bit of survey questions to start off with, and then we're going to do some games. We want to test your knowledge on Tableau, what you heard today, whether you're paying attention, and your overall knowledge on Tableau. So we're going to take about a minute here. I want you, whether it's on your mobile device or your computing device, go to menti.com and enter in that code, 568200. If you're dialing in on the phone, you're going to miss out. No worries. Make sure that you're present and attentive next time around. Once you get to that website and you enter in that code, you will be prompted to enter in your name. Please, please, please enter a G-rated friendly name. First name, maybe last initial at the most. Again, this meeting is being recorded. It's going to be available for people to look at, and I don't want our ultimate champion, you know what I mean. So G-rated names, menti.com, enter the code, and we're gonna get started as soon as start seeing some people in there. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. Again, that was menti.com, and use the code 568200. If anyone's having any issues with that, go ahead and throw that in the chat. I'll monitor that. All right, I'm assuming everybody's in that wants to participate and play. All right, got a lot of people in Arizona here. Got some people in Tempe and Gilbert, Chandler. Good deal. Nobody from out of state? Oh, got someone a surprise. Very cool. All right, so we'll spend about 10 more seconds on this, and then we'll move on. All right, Scottsdale, good. Okay, next question. Is this your first time with PHXTUG? All right, looks like we've got a good mix. So for your first timers, thank you for attending. We appreciate that. For all of you that have kind of been here before and regulars, thank you. Again, virtual meetings are tough, so hopefully we're kind of introducing to ways to get you engaged. All right. So as we go forward, we want to understand what kind of virtual meeting topics are interest to you. And so this one, you should be able to select multiple topics. And this by all means does not, limit what we're able to talk about. Just kind of want to get an idea of what you're mostly interested in, what kind of things you want to hear and see. Great, tips and tricks, demos, hands-on stuff, good. Workshops, love it. Got a couple people on the data dev, so hopefully we can start to build that out a little bit more. Cool, customer stories, great. So pretty well-rounded group, I think. Again, hopefully we can get you more of those on data dev. Really cool stuff coming along on that. So if you're not already aware of those APIs, we'll definitely want to at least kind of show you what's possible. So let's talk about what kind of products interest you. So Tableau Public, if you're not familiar with that, that's Tableau's free version that's out there for you to download, no cost. Learn about more of the product. Desktop Prep Builder, what you saw today. Catherine did an amazing job demonstrating that capability. Tableau Server Online, got a lot of good stuff there. Mobile, the APIs, good. So thanks doing the APIs. Salesforce and Tableau. There's a lot of talk about Tableau and Salesforce integration, Einstein Analytics, and kind of the new stuff that we're looking at. MuleSoft, which is one of other Salesforce acquisitions. How is that going to be integrated with Tableau? A lot of good stuff. So Tableau Desktop primarily, of course, and that's fine. But again, looks like we're pretty well-rounded. So thanks for your feedback. So how long have you been using Tableau? Kind of want to understand like where we are at as a group. All right, so looks like most of you have been using the product, at least 1 to 2 years. A few of you, little three or more. So good, very good. All right. How many of you have Tableau certifications currently? And if you don't have one, I guess you're not going to answer. Again, I neglected to kind of put that in here. Hopefully we can change this and get you excited about certifying. Again, now that we've got our Slack group, we've got some information, we've got the 50% discount up until the end of June. Let's get more and more people into that desktop specialist slot. And then going forward, hopefully we can kind of pique your interest and get more people in the other categories. So great, glad to see this. All right, Tableau trivia time. So let's go ahead and test your Tableau trivia. The way that this is going to work is you're going to be presented with some questions, and the faster that you can answer the questions, you're going to get more points. At the end of this whole thing, hopefully we're going to have a winner, maybe a tie, who knows, but get ready for that. All right, we'll give another 10 seconds or so, wait for some people to join the quiz. I don't know if you can hear this music coming through, but kind of want to just stay on the screen and let it play all day. All right, so we're going to get started. All right, so which version of Tableau introduced dynamic parameters? (2020.1). All right, congratulations to those 6. So which of the APIs allows you to embed visualizations? For those of you that don't do any of the APIs, might be able to take an educated guess here. All right, congratulations to those 7. Now, Tableau is offering how many free days of their e-learning program? Talked about this at the very beginning of the meeting. Nice. All right, most people, 17. They are offering 90 days of free e-learning, so please take advantage of that. More than enough time to learn all the products kind of inside and out. In Tableau's order of operations, which filter type does Tableau apply first? Now this is really important as you start to leverage Tableau more and more to understand what do those operations do, what's done first, last, in the middle. All right. Extract filters are definitely applied first. All right. What is the maximum number of tables that can be joined in Tableau via the Tableau data interpreter? So not Tableau Prep, Tableau Desktop. All right, got a couple people. Congratulations. Which of the following types contains the Tableau workbook and the local data together? Nice. Great job, everyone. Now, Tableau workbooks can contain multiple data sources from different source systems. Is that true or false? Nice. Great job. All right, so what are the sections that exist within the data pane prior to 2020.2? Very good. All right, congratulations, U9. Which of the following is not a Tableau field data type? Great job. All right, next question. As of version 2019.4, what is the maximum number of columns you can have in a table? Yeah, as of 2019.4, not that I recommend doing this, you can extend that thing up to 50. Prior to, 16 was kind of that default number. All right, what syntax is used to make a comment within a calculated field? Is that the pounds, the slashes, the dashes, or kind of the combination of the slash and star? All right. Yeah, if you didn't know this, open up a calculated field and throw that in there. Anything that you mention after those syntax will be commented out, will not be registered. It's always good to document your calculated fields. All right. Null values are included when using a count or count D. Is that a true or false statement? All right, great job, everyone. I think we got another one or two. So, which of the following is not a valid value when using the date part? Nice. Great job, 12. Now, which of the following is not a valid Tableau function? If you haven't used any of the running calculations, it's a really handy, handy feature in there. What's not valid? Nice. All right. Hopefully everyone gets this one. Which version of Tableau is free for use? All right, congratulations. Let's see who our winners are. Nice. All right, so the dude, whoever you are, if you want to throw in the chat, congratulations. Appreciate everyone using G-rated names. Hopefully you enjoyed that. So thanks for playing. Hopefully that was a little fun. You learned something new. We're going to kind of wrap things up, but I do want to kind of mention some of the additional Tableau resources that are out there and kind of leave you on a positive note. So if you are working in maybe the healthcare space where you really just want to learn more about what's going on with COVID and how Tableau's kind of lending a hand with data aggregation and visualizing things, please go out. Tableau's got a COVID-19 data hub. A lot of partners are involved with that. If you want to try and visualize your own little COVID dashboard, that's all available for you. There's a link here to all virtual community events. As I mentioned, we appreciate you taking the time out of your day, spend it with us. We know now that with everything going on, all Tableau user groups, for the most part, are meeting virtually. So you could have anywhere between a dozen or 2 dozen user groups meeting in a single day, let alone throughout the week. So when you take your time to spend it with us, we do appreciate that. As I mentioned before, the Data Fam Community Jam, it's a weekly segment from Tableau community evangelists, kind of like yourselves, data rock stars, that are doing some great things with content. If you haven't seen that, the link's going to take you to where you can watch videos and register for upcoming events. The Tableau eLearning platform, again, 90 days free. Can't stress that enough. Please take advantage of that. If you're a rock star in Tableau already, you don't feel you need it, do it anyway and collect all those badges, show them off. Once you attain those, you can put those up on LinkedIn as again, a badge of honor. Badges are cool. It's just the new thing. There's also some great, community content from Andy Cockreeve. He's got some, a weekly podcast or video cast, If Data Could Talk, really enlightening. Again, if you missed any of those episodes before, you could take a look at previously on the YouTube channel. If you're new to Tableau, and we saw from the quiz trivia today that at least a good portion of you are, we want you to get involved with all the activities that are going on globally, virtually, if you will. Makeover Monday, one of the really things that we stress in our user group on learning best visual practices, on being creative with Tableau. Do check that out. If you're learning the platform and you want to really understand how to get technical, some of maybe the more complex things in Tableau, how the nuts and bolts work, Workout Wednesday is for you. It's basically mimicking what you see on the screen and try to replicate that by reverse engineering, if you will. Iron Quest, prep and data, focused on Tableau prep and data preparation. Viz for Social Good, Sports Viz Sunday, Project Health Viz, and there's many, many more. Again, this is just a really succinct list of different activities that are out there for you to get engaged. And please connect with us. We're social. Now that the Slack channel's open, please go out, join the Slack group, connect with us. We'll be pushing more content out there, sharing it with you. Again, if you're looking at certifying, we'll help you along the way. If you're looking at doing things with data dev, looking for jobs, opportunities, there's a channel out there for you. Twitter, LinkedIn, email, all great ways to connect with us. So please go ahead and do that. And again, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate it, appreciate all your time. Any feedback that you have on kind of pushing this forward, on making this more engaging and applicable to you, that type of feedback is going to be helpful. So use all those different methods on communication, on the social media, on LinkedIn, email, Twitter, on Slack. Reach out to us. Email will be in the slide deck, again, available for you to download through our Slack channel and the community site later today. The video will be pushed up definitely by tomorrow, possibly later today. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off for now. Thank you once again, and we will see you in June at our next meeting. Thanks, everyone.